I just listened to an atheist yesterday who
Yes.
became, as an atheist medical scientist, not a medical doctor, but medical scientist. He does researches in the area of medicine. And he said, I became a believer only because of anatomy. He said, because when a human body is opened up, the order at which everything functions together, the thousands of elements, and everything functioning in perfect order, there must be somebody that knows all that arrangement. And that's how he became a believer.
Wow.
Anatomy made him a believer.
Yes. So leading to that, yes, the human anatomy, it's incredible. It's the way the brain functions, the way certain animals. There is this example of a plant where you take this plant. We were talking recently about a French philosopher, they call him Michel Onfray, a very young man. He was talking about a certain plant of how you will take this plant. The plant actually has time in it. The plant will close in the evening. It will close its leaves. But when it's daytime, the leaves open. So what they did was that they took this plant and put it in total obscurity, in a huge total darkness in a cave where there wouldn't be any access to any light at all. But this plant was able to close when it's night and open when it's daytime, even without getting to know that is there any light or there is no any reflection of the sun. So watching the nature, watching the mountains, the force of the ocean, the power, the strength, the earthquakes we experience, certainly there must be an external force from all these things, and the human anatomy too, that explain the complexity of the nature of the creator of all these things. So in your opinion, why do you think that such huge personality, such magnificent, such omniscient, such omnipotent personality, how do you come to the conclusion that his personality could be summarized in a little tiny book called the Bible within the clannish movement, a group of people, just tiny, let's say at the epoch where, let's say we have at least, let's say 5 billion people, 4 billion people during the epoch when they were having this, they were the Africans. He didn't see the African to use them to make profit among the Africans. He didn't see the Europeans, he didn't see the Asians, they were the Chinese people. They had a very great civilization that existed in a very long time. So how could you subscribe to this little tiny literature, just a book? How do you explain that this very book can explain the nature of this magnificent energy that is beyond human comprehension, this energy that created the human body, that created the galaxy? How can you explain that this book, the Bible, can explain its nature?
All right. Now, when we talk about galaxy and the earth and the complexity of creation that proves to us that there is an intelligent creation behind all this, you will see that man is so minute in creation process itself and in the complexity of creation itself that man is only but a tiny dot because let's take one galaxy for example. Any little galaxy, and our galaxy, Milky Way, is one of the smallest. But let's talk about any galaxy. Any galaxy you take is about 500 million times bigger than the planet Earth. Galaxy, the Earth. So if a galaxy is 500 million times bigger than the Earth itself, so that is less than a dot. That is less than a sand, a grain of sand. And if that is the case, then you want to ask yourself, then how many galaxies are there? There are more than 500 billion galaxies. So when we are talking about God, and God, this huge God, talking about huge God, we are not even talking, man is not even the most complex of his creation. It's the easiest of his creation. Man, let's take one galaxy that is, we are not even talking about the Earth where man has not even been able to explore the whole Earth. We have not even explored 10% of the Earth. In fact, man has not even been able to exploit 10% of man himself. More than that, man has not even been able to exploit any part of the body of man. Man has not been able to exploit even the eye. Let's say you find a medical doctor. that says he's a medical doctor, a doctor or optician of eye clinic, eye science. If you say he's a doctor, medical doctor, it is a wrong expression. You cannot be a medical doctor. You can only be a specialist in one little area. And when you say you are a doctor of science, PhD in eye treatment, you have to ask what part of it. Then if you say what part of it, then you have to ask what part of that one part. Then that is all the doctorate, PhD that we get. Let's say somebody comes to you and says that I am a PhD or professor of mathematics. It's not possible. You cannot be a professor of mathematics. Nobody can be. The whole world, nobody can be. You can only be a professor of maybe algebra. Maybe this one. Even if you say algebra, we have to say, okay, from algebra, which one is that algebra? What department? What faculty? What? So what I'm saying is that even the eye alone, if we close down all universities in the world and tell them just to study the eye, they are still not going to be able to solve all the problem of the eye, so that nobody will be blind, so that nobody will ever use glasses, so that every complexity will never be resolved. All universities in the world, they are not even able to resolve the problem of eye alone, or brain, or digestive system, or any part of the body you mentioned. We are just talking about body. So that kind of man that is so weak, that is so helpless, but to even help himself. Let even that man stop the question of death now. Let him solve the littlest question of when he's going to die or when he's going to be born. So man is so non-entity when we are talking about God. He decided that, okay, I'm not even challenging the man to go and solve the problem of moon or sun or any star. Or the galaxy. I'm not even talking about the galaxy. I'm not even challenging man to go and when you finish studying one galaxy, then we can begin to discuss the one who made the galaxy. It is pride. It is pride that makes man to begin to think that he even qualifies to ask questions about God. Because when we say that the smallest galaxy is 500 million times bigger than the earth itself, and that there are 500 billion galaxies that are much more complex. So what is Earth that we cannot even explore? We have not even explored 1% of the Earth. Talk less of ourselves. You've not even discovered yourself. Why are you running to? Okay, right now, some people want to go to Mars. Okay, can we get to Mars? The biggest optical, invention of whatever, the mechanism that NASA has installed and discovered to get to the Mars. For you to send somebody to the Mars, you have to, we are still struggling with it. Up to that, we can still not decide just to go. We are not even talking about sun. We're going to die. We are so finite. We are so limited. That is because we belong to another category. Now, so what the question about God is, how can then we say this small book called the Bible would describe God? Of course it cannot describe God. Man is the littlest and the weakest of all God's creation, but the only thing, magic word that God gave to make man special, even though it's the simplest, but is the most unique, is that God puts his nature, his spirit, just little spirit in man, little. God himself is the whole spirit that is controlling all those 500 billion galaxies. It's everywhere. But in man, when a man dies, it is less than 1 kilogram. In fact, it's 6 grams. Only 6 grams of our life, the life of a man that lives with a man died. It's only 6 grams of breath. The life of a man is just like 6 grams. It weighs less than this thing. This one. It weighs less than. We are so non-entity. It is that little 6 grams that God put in man that makes us to be different and to be able to even think. It is that little gram that makes man to become Homo sapiens. Because it is only when the breath of God, that breath, that is the 6 grams. When it met with the shape of man and the the body of man, when the Spirit of God man became a thinking man. So that faculty of the man to think is what the limited little thing that is needed for him to manage the earth and to rule over the earth is what is deposited in him. Just is only the little that is needed for him to survive and manage the earth and be Lord over all the creation on the earth is what is given to him. So also with the Bible, God only put little as necessary for man to function in relationship with God as to the concept of the earth, for him to be able to relate with God and manage the earth. That is the only little information that is contained in the Bible about for man about God. The Bible is too small to reveal God. The much that is there is the much we need to function on the earth, and the much we need to know about him. That is it's just like saying you will not give your son now, for example, $100 billion, and he's only 1 year old. He doesn't need that, even though you have that money, but you are giving him just a glass of this, a glass of that. He doesn't even need the $10. It would, if you give him more than that, it will destroy him. So when to say that, how can that little book describe God? No, that book doesn't represent God. It only gives us a little understanding of God, the little for our good that is good enough for us, that the most we need to know to function on the earth and to relate with God. That's it, and to relate with all creation. And then why is it that it is not the African man that God put or used? Because everything, if you follow the order of creation, everything is done with everything starts with a prototype. God had the whole earth in mind when he was choosing, when he wanted to relate to man. He wanted to relate to the whole earth and to all nations, all colors. But he needed a model, just like we all do. Before this iPad was created, one original copy, one model needed to be created. When you buy a Mercedes-Benz, the reason why you have Mercedes-Benz is because there was a model, a prototype of that Mercedes-Benz that has been test run. That's why we now have all the Mercedes-Benzes that you have. That is how life is. Something has to be started with something. That is why God started with the Jewish people, and there is a reason for it. Okay, you are saying, why is it that God didn't use the Africans or the white people or
the Asians, the Chinese?
Chinese. There are a lot of reasons and a lot of complexity. For example, let's take the Chinese. The Chinese people, up till like 2,000 years ago, they were busy killing themselves. Go and read history of the Chinese people. They were busy fighting. Now, people who are one tribe against the other, they just kept on fighting all their lives. So people who are busy killing themselves like that, there is no way for them to be able to settle down to carry, the image of God or the likeness of God or the model, the prototype of God. Now, even these Jewish people will say, why is it that they are the one that were chosen? No, there was another civilization, which was the Persian civilization. The Jewish people were chosen from Ur, from Mesopotamia, what do you call it? There is the Mesopotamia, what do you call it? So from the Persian civilization. So they came out from the Persian civilization. That is where God instructed Abraham to leave the Persian civilization. And from one man who is a Persian, God created the Jewish people. Yeah, Mesopotamia. Yeah, Mesopotamia. So that is where he got him from. So he's not like Jewish people. No, Jewish people is a new people compared to the Chinese people, compared to the other, like the Persian people from that Mesopotamia, for example. So he's just one person. Now, if God has chosen a black person, the same question will have arisen. Why that black person? If it had been a white person, why that white person? But I think God chose between the two. We not neither white nor black. It's just yellow in between the two. But then God also gave explanation. It's like God knew that this question was going to arise. And so God gave explanation as to why Abraham was the one that was chosen. And he said the reason is because this Abraham, I saw a quality in him, which is he has the ability to pass down. He will teach his next generation the principles of the knowledge of God that I gave to him. So because I can trust him to pass down the knowledge of God, because that knowledge of God was needed, despite all the crisis and the trouble they go into pass through, it was needed for them to keep it and pass it across. Why was it needed? Because they were only the prototype. They were supposed to keep that knowledge of God for us. They had to go through a lot of suffering in learning to walk with God and the ways of God, to become a model for us, all other nations and other countries, so that by studying the original, the prototype and the model and the modus operandi of God with man, so that all nations also now could observe that and also copy and learn without paying the price of years and the price of punishment and suffering that the Jewish people had to go through to be able to be that model people and model nation that, that portrays God's relationship to man to the rest of the world. So it is actually a liability and a responsibility. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Now, we need to spread this word, and we need to do it together. For that to happen, we need your help. Just 5 little steps that you could help us to spread the word. Number one thing we need you to do is to like the videos. Please go like this video right now. Number 2, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Number 3, we need you to press and click on that notification bell. You see the bell? Go press on it. And number 4, we need you to go comment. Write your comment, good or bad. Just write what you feel. Number 5, share on every platform. Share on Instagram, share on Facebook. Just share and spread the word. Thank you so much.